Is your closet full of old shirts that you don't wear anymore? Are they full of holes and no longer fit? Well, now you're in luck, because with the help of this video, you can now turn those old shirts into fashionable headwear. Look, I'm wearing one now. The first thing you'll need to do is measure your head. Simply place your head on a piece of paper and trace it with a pencil, just like this. If you happen to have a fabric measuring tape, it would make this process much easier. If you don't have a fabric measuring tape, you can always use string. You will need to measure the circumference of your head. Be sure to write these measurements down, as we will use them later. The style of caps that I am making here uses 4 basic parts: 2 side panels, a center strip, and a headband. Using your measurements, you can create a template like this. It may be helpful to create a more rigid template by transferring your measurements to a piece of cardboard or illustration board. From the tracing of your head, measure the circumference of this curve. This measurement will determine the length of your centerpiece. My head tracing is 12 inches. You can see here I have added a 4-inch tail, making the overall length 16 inches. Measure your head from ear to ear like this. Use this measurement to determine the width of the centerpiece by subtracting the width of the 2 side panels from the overall length of the vertical circumference of your head. You can use a string tied to a pencil and held against the table to create a curved arc that intersects these 3 spots. The headband width may vary depending on your preference. I will be making mine 2 inches wide and twice as thick, meaning I will need a 4-inch piece of fabric that will be folded in half. The length of the headband is determined by your horizontal circumference and will need to include additional length, which will be used to tie it in place. Here I am running a stitch the full length of the headband to maintain the fold. I begin the construction of my cap by attaching the front corner of one side panel to the front corner of the center piece. I then run a full-length stitch attaching the 2 pieces together while maintaining alignment of the curved edges. I then repeat the process with the other side panel, making certain the front corners and curved edges are aligned. Here I am reinforcing the edges by folding 1/4 of an inch of material over itself and adding an edge stitch. Now I find the center of my headband by folding it in half, so that I can attach it to the center of the center piece and side panels. When attaching the headband to the rest of the cap, I make certain to stitch them together with the cap turned inside out. This will keep the stitch seam hidden on the inside of the cap when complete. While keeping the edges aligned, I run a straight stitch completely around the cap and the edge of the headband. You may find that your headband is not long enough to tie the cap in place on your head. If that is the case, you can add additional pieces to the headband like this. I have reinforced those add-ons by adding a 1/4 inch fold and edge stitch. Here I am tucking the edges of the headband into itself and reinforcing the stitches of the added material. To complete the cap, I run additional reinforcement zigzag stitches for both the cosmetics or the look of the cap and for added strength. Now this sewing machine has a pretty cool feature, which allows for the embroidery of letters. So of course I gotta add a signature. Well, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it helpful. I want to give a special shout out to my top patrons, James and Michael. Thank you guys for your support. And if you want to see more videos like this one, hit that like button and subscribe.
You too can have your own fashionable headwear by converting your old shirts into
Fashionable Headwear.